I'm John Anderson. Meet my co-hosts, Nick Best and Akeem Williams. We're going to have some amazing guests on the show. Buckle up tight, because we're going to be talking about the shit you're not supposed to be talking about. We're going to be discussing anything and everything it takes to become a Legend of Iron.
Legends of Iron is brought to you by Musclemint. Musclemint is the creator of Carnivore Pure Beef Protein Icing. Beef builds muscle, and Carnivore is the world's #1 selling beef protein. And don't forget to try our new Carnivore flavor, Rocket Pop.
Oh, damn! Whoa, this is it right here.
Wow, this is protein? Delicious.
This is too good to be protein. Woo, we about to change the game with this one.
You're gonna love it.
Welcome to another edition of Legends of Iron. I am John Anderson. With me always, my partners in crime, Nick Best and Akeem Williams. We have got one hell of a show for you today. This guy is just knocking the dick in the world of strongman right now. Just completely, just literally just lighting the place up. We would like to bring to you Mitchell, the Moose Hooper. What is going down, brother? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, hello. Thank you very much for having me. Very excited.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you here, brother. But we got to just go right to the jump. I mean, you showed up to World's Strongest Man this year, and the only way I can describe it is you just kicked the dick in of that whole goddamn show, man. Talk to us about how that went for you. I mean, you were just having this amazing experience. Talk us through what that was like for you. To give us your monologue. Tell us what you're thinking. It must have been so goddamn exciting. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah. You know, it was really good. To backtrack from the invites of Worlds, I was sent an email saying, you know, your potential. Then 2 weeks went by, and guys started posting their invites and whatnot. And 2 weeks after that, I was told I was a reserve. And that was probably the most stressful 2 weeks of the whole experience, trying to know if I was in or if I was out. Then a couple weeks after that, I got the official invite, which was really exciting. You know, then I got the group of death, and I sort of had I had my thoughts, I had my ideas, and you know, I'm very objective with what I'm capable of. So the day before the first day of the heats, I was sitting with Colin Bryce around the fire, and he was talking about the path for me to get through to the finals, and talked about who I might be able to beat if I came third in my group, who I might be able to beat in the stone off. And I sort of went through event by event and said, I'm pretty sure I'll win this group, to be honest with you. And that came to fruition. And then, you know, my thoughts for the final sort of came to fruition as well, where I never did a truck pull before. I never did power stairs before. I didn't have the ability to practice behind the neck. Yeah, I didn't have the ability to practice.
You've never done a truck pull before?
No, it's just kind of learning on the spot.
Oh my God. So
actually, so I was sitting.
Hold on. All of you listeners out there, please understand what this man just told us. He was competing at the Super Bowl of Strongman, doing a truck pull, and he'd never fucking done the event before. Please understand the challenges this man was up against, and still just, again, knock the dick in the whole damn contest. So keep going, brother. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Well, and to give some perspective to that, because there's been a bit of backlash on why didn't you pull a truck before, and it was only my 5th competition ever. So I.
Hold on.
Yeah,
we got
I know what that's like.
Okay, so not only never pulled a truck, this is the fit. Like 5 is in fitting on this hand. That was the Super Bowl of Strongman was your 5th ever competition. That's insane, brother. Holy shit.
Well, that's how good he is. That's literally how good he is.
Oh, I didn't know that,
he's
brother.
Gonna be
The
scary
Strongman world is in big
years.
trouble here. If that's your 5th contest, just imagine what the 7th is going to be like.
Yeah. Well, no pressure, but so the final started how I thought they would. Coming into it in the video before the groups came out, I predicted the whole thing on a YouTube video, and I said I think I'll come somewhere between 3rd and 6th. And I think even though I hadn't done it before, I underperformed on the power stairs. Just a really stupid mistake on that. I think I should have won that event. A stupid mistake on the stones. You know, I think if that competition was run the next day, just having the experience of doing all the things once, I think I would have come 2nd or 3rd, to be honest.
Wow.
What do you think your mistake on the power stairs was?
Well, I didn't really realize that you should put the two things. There was a technical mistake, and then there was just a mental error. I didn't think through that you have to have the implement on the edge of the stair to be able to swing it forward. So I got to the seventh stair in first place, and I swung that too far on to the seventh step, and it was right butt up against the eighth step. And I couldn't really figure out, I was a bit tired as well. I couldn't figure it in my head what was going on, why I couldn't do it. So there was that element. There was also the element of I should have just thrown my head back, swung my torso back. Instead, I was kind of literally half curling the thing up. But I think if that was further away from the eighth step, I would have got the next two. And Max, I was up against Max, and he won. And I was not far ahead, but reasonably ahead at that stage. And I think I would have won that event. And that's 4 points there. And I was 2 seconds off of top 5 in the truck pull, and that's 4 points there.
Yep.
Already you're talking, that's up to the podium. So,
No. His truck pull was amazing because he didn't know how to start the track. I mean, getting the momentum going, and then
the first 6 inches is everything.
He gets the momentum and is able to accelerate the truck in an area of the course that guys aren't accelerating in. They're already at top speed, and still comes in with a really fast time.
What is your height and weight, brother?
I'm 6'3", about 315.
So you're not one of the giants, and you're just extraordinarily powerful and clearly gifted at the sport, brother. This is going to be fun to watch you develop. Oh my God!
I think the ceiling's certainly high, but Alexei Novikov and Martins Elisis have certainly paved the way for not having to be massive anymore.
Yeah. Wow.
So now you didn't have a chance to train the Flintstone lift. No. So you went out there and pressed that from the front.
Yeah.
And you ended up with like 463, right?
No, I did 475 in training, and then I narrowly missed, I think, 470. But I hit the 440, but it just, for whatever reason, it just wasn't feeling right on the day. But yeah, at the gym I'm at, it's just a commercial gym, so we didn't have blocks to do jerks off of. We didn't have pads high enough for me to go behind the neck. So I started behind the neck, and in my first session, I got to 185, 190 kilos, like 410, something like that. And then that felt kind of crappy, and so I backed it down to 315, and I did a few reps. And then one of the reps, I went to drop it back on my neck, and I dropped it too far behind, and it went straight from overhead to the ground. And as soon as that happened, I just kind of said,
that's it. Yeah.
Wow. So the crazy part of it, and I didn't know. I mean, you had this phenomenal performance, and just for being kind of a newer name in that contest, it was. But now that we understand that you had little to no experience with a lot of stuff you were doing, this makes it much sweeter, brother. Oh my God, your story. No, people don't know. Everybody that saw what's going on, myself included, saw you just fucking just kill it, not understanding the lack of experience that you had with this stuff. This makes it so much sweeter. The story is amazing.
It makes it sweeter, but it also stings that if I knew I was going to make it through to the finals, perhaps I would have sought out a CrossFit gym where I could have practiced behind the neck pressing. Perhaps I would have arranged a harness in a truck. But the thing that seems to differentiate me from most strongmen is I sort of have my priorities very clear. And into this prep to World's Strongest Man, it was my 5th contest ever. And you got to think, yes, it's World's Strongest Man, but anyone who it's their 5th contest ever, are you going to start commandeering a truck and carving out entire days to go drive 2-3 hours to go to a proper training facility? And for me at the time, it just wasn't worth it. And moving forward, it probably will be because there's a lot of leverage that can come from it.
Yeah.
But at the time, it just wasn't worth it. And there's just some people who don't understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, brother, I'll tell you now that you're on a different platform, spending that little bit of time to go do that is really going to start paying you in a big way in competition. And obviously, coming the way you did, people love new faces coming in hot, and you are definitely that right now, brother. So, pour on the steam, and this is a great platform for you to grow in terms of an athlete and for a business too. Good for you.
Yeah, well, I think, and Nick can attest to this. I think throughout the whole experience, I allowed myself to have more fun than anyone else. And I've been through a lot of sports, and I'm just enjoying the hell out of all of this, however long it lasts.
How old are you, brother?
I'm 26.
Oh my God! It just keeps getting better. I'm waiting for some sort of chink in the armor, but it just gets better and better. You're young, very little experience. You're just fucking cock strong. I mean, and cock strong is like the best compliment, like, because there's those people that are strong, and then there's people that look strong, and then there's people that are just so much stronger than they look, and that's cock strong, and that's what you are, brother. Holy shit.
Well, he's also got a 475 kilo deadlift too.
Oh, mercy.
Yeah.
Okay, he's
lightning fast.
So let's just ask, is there a weakness in your repertoire here? Is it just the fact that you're so new? Is that the biggest weakness there is?
Yeah, that's the glaring weakness. The weakness that I thought would show up at Worlds would be nerves, but that didn't exist at all at any stage. Recovery was really good. So all of those sort of physiological characteristics are really good. But yeah, it's just the stuff that I haven't been exposed to before, the things I haven't done. Like I didn't train Atlas stones with Tacky through my whole prep to World's Strongest Man because I was doing them in my mom's basement. I didn't want to get tacky everywhere on her. So just really basic stuff that I gotta, I gotta get a little bit stronger and a lot smarter, and I'm going to be pretty hard to beat, I think.
So what do you do? I mean, obviously you're an elite strongman now, but you mentioned basically prior to this contest, it just didn't make sense to you to drive hours to go find a truck or proper equipment. What do you do?
So I own a clinical exercise physiology practice that opens.
Okay.
Yeah, that opens 3 weeks before World's Strongest Man. So it's actually pretty horrendous timing.
Oh my God.
And so that's my real passion.
Christ.
So I have two businesses at the moment. One is the clinical exercise physiology practice downtown in my hometown. And the other is the online business that's tied to Strongman. And my intention with the online business was basically to quit that when I moved back to Canada to start the practice. But when I started seeing the mental health benefits that people get from Strongman, it was too good and too meaningful to give up. So I talk a lot about how Strongman's not my world, and I don't put a lot of weight into professional strongman competitions aside from the leverage that you can get from gaining a following, gaining an audience. But what I have a lot of respect for, a lot of reverence for, is at the community level, when you have people who've never exercised before, maybe someone who's never had anyone cheer for them before, and they'll go try and deadlift 60 kilos and you'll have 20 people going crazy for them. And that's really a life-changing moment for that person.
Yeah.
So that's the bit of strongman that's deeply ingrained in me and what I really love.
Wow. Wow. This story just keeps getting better and better, brother. Oh my God. So you're young, you're basically an entrepreneur, you're strong as hell. You basically kind of at the front end of all of these really great things in your life. This is you're clearly one of those guys that, when you set your mind to something, you do it because everything that you're doing well, Yeah.
Well, I do my best to do that, but it's also very scary to have things that could fold on you like a deck of cards. Like I could get hurt and Strongman could go away. So that's why that's why I'll always speak in however long Strongman lasts, or if I'm able to go to the next World's Strongest Man, because only athletes will understand you could pop a hamstring off the bone and never be in condition to compete again. So I think it's really important to keep it in context of you are who you are, not what you do.
Yeah. No, that's pretty wise for a young man. I got to tell you, man, that you're talk to us about your education. You strike me as a guy that's done. You're probably well studied. Yeah.
Yeah, I did my bachelor's degree in human kinetics at the University of Guelph. So I got my Bachelor of Science with honors there. Then I was the head strength and conditioning coach for a pro basketball team here in Canada. After that, I went to Sydney. So that's why I was in Australia for a while. And I did my master's in clinical exercise physiology down there, which, like I said, is exercising people with injuries, chronic conditions, and preventing chronic conditions. And then, just clinical practice after that. But I think I've spoken with this a fair bit on other podcasts, but I think there's a blessing to having a history of mental health issues to an extent, and it's never been anything crazy bad. But I think more about why I'm here and what I'm doing than other people. I think for that reason, because there has been times when I have to come up with a reason of why I'm here and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I've also had a lot of failures. When you could look at successes on the surface and say, I played college football, I ran marathons, I did bodybuilding, but with college football, I was supposed to go pro, and I gave it up because I didn't like it. With marathon running, I wanted to qualify for the Boston Marathon, and I didn't end up qualifying. With bodybuilding, I came literally last place in my division. So yes, on the surface, they're crazy successes, but they're also things that I've given up, and I've had to strip myself from identifying with what I do.
Yeah.
Question. There was a rumor you're a really good golfer too.
Yeah, I was at 16, I was a +2 handicap. And
Jesus Christ. All right. I think this show's going to turn into us asking you, what else are you good at? maybe an easier question to ask is, what are you not good at?
When I was 14, I went down to Florida, and I don't know if any of you guys know who Sean Foley is. Does that ring a bell? Yeah. He was Tigers coach during his prime, and he ran a golf school for teenagers. Basically, you went to high school and spent your time golfing and learning under him. I went there for a week to see if I wanted to do that. When I was 14, I was invited down, and I just psychologically wasn't ready to move away from home and whatnot. But yeah, I very well could be a professional golfer right now if things went that route.
Here's the thing: if you take life and you strip it all away, a man wants choices. Choices makes a man happy, brother. You've got choices, right? Oh my God! I mean, you've had so many opportunities. You chose to move on to find something better for you. I got to tell you right now, brother, I'm inspired. I'm surprised in a very good way. I'm so happy that you're on the show, because I'm telling you right now, I would imagine most people like myself, saw you compete, you knew you for a little bit from social media, had zero clue of what the Moose is really all about. And this is really fucking cool, brother. So, talk to us a little bit about your family. I'm assuming you've got to have some sort of a tight unit to be kind of this, I guess, say good at everything.
Yeah. Well, to touch on things, I think I'm not good at some things that are much more important than being good at golf. Like, for example, I'm terrible at forgiving people. I can, when I get set on a certain direction to do something, like sometimes spending time with family falls by the wayside. So it's things like that I find that I struggle with, and I'm envious of other people who can strike the balance a bit better. But in terms of my family, I have a fiance that I live with and 2 dogs. She's a veterinarian, and then I have my mom and stepdad. They both live in my hometown. That's where I live at the moment. Then I have a sister, and she's got a fiance. And then my dad lives in my hometown as well. My parents split when I was 4. My dad is very much a blue-collar worker. He did snow removal, grass cutting. Him and I, when I was 4 or 5, we do the every other weekend type thing, and we'd go out and deliver newspapers together. And then from 6, 7, 8, I'd be shoveling snow with him in the middle of the night and falling asleep between driveways and whatnot. My mom's done a variety of things, and now she owns a couple of properties. And then, a lot of inspiration I get, and a lot of where I think my mentality comes from. My grandfather did really, really well in the lumber business, and bought a lumber yard from his dad, and turned himself into the major supplier for Lowe's and Home Depot in North America.
Wow, man, crazy, brother.
So I think I look at my family situation, and I see my mom's side and my grandpa, and I see what the fruits of your labor can look like. And I see my dad's situation, who's the hardest working guy I know, the sweetest guy I know, but you make a couple of bad decisions, or you present yourself wrong to the wrong people, and it can alter your life very quickly.
Yeah.
Isn't that the truth? 100%. That's so true. I mean, a lot of times you find the guy who, you know, it can just be one simple thing that can kind of change where a person will end up. But I mean, clearly, with all of what you're talking about and all your influence, you sure took the best of all, because you're quite a creature, brother. I mean that in a the most complimentary way possible. You know.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. You know, I think just having the perspective of both sides is my biggest strength. And you know, from even when I was 6, 7 years old, I'd go spend the weekend at my dad's, who lives quite humbly, and then I'd go back to my mom's, who, you know, lived in a mansion, and I'd cry to myself at that young, going, why do I deserve any of this? Same thing. I'd go on trips to Europe with my mom, my grandpa, my whole family, and everyone would be having a great time, and it would get to a stage where I just felt like I was been given way too much for what I was contributing. So I've really had that perspective for a very long time. And I always say to my mom, my goal is to try to give back more to people than has given to me. But she's making that job extraordinarily hard with what's been given to me. And then I go through these experiences, and I meet so many incredible people who are so generous and so kind. And it's like this debt that's never going to be repaid.
Brother, if there were more people in the world that had, like you, had your mindset, the world would be a very different place. I mean,
yes, it would.
I mean, what you just said is like, it's kind of blowing my mind in a very good way. I mean, you just don't hear people, especially at 26 years old. You know,
I'm curious as to what got you into powerlifting, into strongman powerlifting, because from your background and what you said, you know, it really didn't come from a powerlifting background. So why did you pick up the iron?
Well, I always enjoyed lifting heavy. That's probably the consistent thing from when I was 16. If I were to go to the gym, I would tend just to test my 1 rep max literally every single day.
Well, and were you like a crazy strong teenager also?
Ish. I mean, I have some funny videos of, you know, like a trap bar deadlift of 600 pounds. I was 18 at the time, you know, trap bar deadlift 600 pounds, the worst squat you've ever seen in knee wraps of 500 pounds. So I wasn't strong like some of the teenagers you see now, fairly strong, but I just seek to objectively improve myself in some way consistently. And I think what's important about that, and what bodybuilding really taught me, is if you do anything off of how you feel, you're always going to end up in a place where you're not happy with the result, because you can talk yourself out of something. So that's where marathon running came into play. And then I just happened to stumble across a gym that did powerlifting, and that was another great way to fulfill that objective. And then I did that for 6 months. I found it, you know, I won the Australian Championship, but I found it pretty boring, just the 3 lifts, and it took away all athleticism and all of that. And then that just naturally evolved into strongman.
Gotcha.
So talk to us about you done Worlds was your 5th contest. Yeah. Talk us through the first 4.
2 state qualifiers and 2 state championships. In my first competition, I qualified for the Amateur Arnold's in Australia, and that got canceled. Then my next competition was a qualifier for the New South Wales state title, and I won that one, narrowly won that one. And then I won the New South Wales state title, again, pretty narrowly. And then I did ACT states, which is just the neighboring state in Australia, and I won that. But it was mostly after the New South Wales state title. That sort of synced up with when Worlds was. And I looked at the numbers that I was doing, and I looked at the numbers that those guys were doing, and just objectively, I said, I'm pretty sure I belong there. Pretty sure I could be there.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, literally 5 contests, your 5th contest, 4 contests, and then to the big show. And the fact that you have the mindset, like you just explained, you just kind of objectively broke it down. Like, I belong here, and you showed up and you managed all of your nerves, and you had a good time, and you performed like a champ. Brother, this is some like serious, like, I guess you just mental fortitude to kind of sum it up. I mean, you've got the mental toughness, but you've also got the way to objectively look at things and recognize where you should be, and then go do it. You know? Yeah,
and it's also the flip side is really important as well, in understanding what you can't do. because then you don't put pressure on yourself to do that. You don't get worried about doing things that you're not capable of. But I wish, it's just, I find a lot of comfort in objectively looking at anything. And like, to the bane of my fiance's existence, if we get in an argument, I'll go straight into it, like, well, let's take emotion out of this. What makes logical sense? What's actually
well, you're not gonna win that one. You're not gonna win that. Yeah.
How does that work for you? Does that work? Is that? Because I know if this works somehow, I want to know how to do it, because I've tried that and I fail miserably.
You could put conflict resolution firmly in the category of things I'm not great at.
Even the way that you talk, conflict resolution, I fucking love it, man. You'd never know that we're talking to a guy that is, just placed in the top of the world in the strength world. You think we're talking to somebody who just graduated from Harvard or something, Harvard Law. I love it. Well, talk to us about what I'm going to say inspirations, because I'm sure your inspirations probably came from somewhere that I would never guess. Where do your inspirations come from? Just in terms of you being the best you can be, where do your inspirations come from?
I don't have a good answer. I have a lot of reverence for people who are good at many things. And someone like Elon Musk, who has no real reverence for what other people have done before, and he's just going to give a crack at whatever he feels like giving a crack at. I think that's really cool. But I don't look to one person and say that I'd like to emulate them in this way or them in this way. Certain people would have certain facets that I would really respect. But I just try to find my own compass in a certain way.
Yeah.
That's pretty evident when watching you do things. You can definitely tell you kind of go about things in that you kind of figure it out, analyze it, and then execute, and it shows.
Yeah, and you'll see
about it like that.
I think you can observe someone doing something, and say you could observe people's behavior at World's Strongest Man, and you could deduce a lot of things about that person just through their behavior. For example, you will see guys changing their warm-up routine because they see someone else doing a different warm-up routine. You will see guys jumping into the ice bath because they see Brian Shaw jumping in the ice bath and Luke Stoltman. So I might as well jump into the ice bath. But I've never been the person to look at the herd and think that the thought of the masses is a good idea. And that's probably a weakness. And in the past, I've probably spent more time going against the grain for the sake of it than I need to.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
I'm sure that's what makes you unique, man. That's what makes you who you are, So
yeah. Well, I think there's a lot there's a lot to be said for just not following the masses just because that's most people. Mm-hmm. Most people are happier standing in line they don't even know what they're standing in line for, but they're happier standing in line because everybody else is there. Mm-hmm. If I think I probably side with you in the fact that I tend to go more against the grain, largely just because it's what people are not doing. And I don't like to find myself standing in line. I don't feel like that's where I'm at my best. But what kills me about this episode so far, brothers, normally ask questions and you kind of have an idea what's coming back at you when you ask the question. This one, your answers have been like, I couldn't have guessed any of them. This has been totally, I mean, from a standpoint of listening to somebody talk, this has been a very exciting 27 minutes, 54 seconds. So I love it, brother.
If you take my professional ambition and my real purpose, when I want the general person to extend their health span to match their lifespan, I find if that's my mission, then I have to behave in a consistent way. And a really good anecdote is if I can go be one of the world's strongest men and I can not scream, I can not have someone slap me, I can not act like a wild banshee, and show people that, like, yes, if you see me in the gym, the weights are going to be louder because they're heavier, but I'm also the first person who will smile and ask you how things are going. And I think it's people who look like me who scare a lot of general people away from the gym. I would scare my mom away from the gym if she didn't know me. And if I can have a 1% impact on changing that perspective, And you look at me as one of the most experienced people in the gym who might be able to lend a hand, and that makes one person more comfortable to head in and get a workout in, then I'll consider myself pretty fulfilled.
Wow,
that's awesome.
This is
awesome.
fucking profound shit here, man. This is really, really cool. I mean, I'm literally just enjoying listening to you talk, because you're really, I'm sure our listeners too, you're just, what you're saying helps kind of change the dimensions of what normal, everybody kind of has this generalized perspective, and you're really turning that around, brother. Really, really powerful stuff.
It's a blessing and a curse. I think I just think about things more than other people, and I can't switch my brain off. I can't switch my brain off to why I'm doing something or why I'm behaving a certain way or why someone else is behaving a certain way. And the positive side comes out when I start talking about my meaning and what fulfills me and my thoughts on certain things. But then you can imagine the flip side. And if something bothers me, my brain it'll just spin the same way. So, it's a blessing and a curse in certain ways.
Yeah.
So how do you control that?
Yeah, I'm gonna ask. That was right. Took the word right out of my mouth, Nick.
How do you exactly? How do you control that or get your head out of that kind of like groove when you need to get out of that groove? How do you get out of that groove? Not well.
Okay. It's and when it's a curse, I still accept that it's a blessing, and I've come to grips with the fact that when my head's spinning and I'm not happy, I'm never going to be the person who doesn't go to work or miss a workout, or, I'm just a bit unhappy for whatever reason. And I've been able to dissociate really well the difference between fulfillment and happiness. So I can accept that I'm not happy, and I can still be content that my life is moving in the direction that I want it to, regardless of if this little thing is bothering me. But I'll still put myself in turmoil for 24 hours at a time. But I can't remember the last thing something upset me for longer than a day.
Wow, that's something to say right there. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. Really cool. Well, you've really got a good grip on yourself. That's one thing I'm gathering. You understand who you are. You understand XYZ. You understand the goods and the bad. So it sounds like at 26 years old, you're just kind of at the front end of basically you're going to know yourself so much more in 10 years. I can only imagine to hear your perspectives on life in 10 years from now, Yeah.
Well, I think this is the challenge between sounding arrogant and sounding confident, because I could very easily come on these podcasts and talk about everything that I'm really good at. And oftentimes people interviewing want to speak about what you're good at. But if all I did was come on this podcast and say how good I was at golf and strongman and business and this and this and this, and I never touched on these areas that I struggle in, you sound like you sound arrogant, and two, you become extremely unrelatable. And if you're Mr. Perfect, then what client is going to listen to you? What business partner is going to listen to you? You're Mr. Perfect. You're not like me. And I think what I want to portray is I'm pretty much exactly like you.
Yeah. Amazing stuff, brother. Amazing stuff. So your clinic, you just got this started, 3 weeks before World. So now you're 6-7 weeks deep into your business. How's that going?
Yeah, it's going really well. It was a whirlwind getting it started. We got the lease, and then I had to get all the equipment, get all the carpet, and I carried that up the fire escape, up 2 flights of fire escape stairs, about 3,000 pounds worth of equipment. So I think that helps me on the loading medleys. But yeah, it was tough though, because Worlds obviously had a natural break in momentum. Mm-hmm. But after that, it's picked up really well, and I'm going to be bringing on my first employee in about 2 weeks' time. So I need some help, which is fantastic.
Yeah. So it kind of you told us what it was briefly when you were kind of talking earlier, but get a little more detail. What exactly is your clinic? What do you guys do?
So at the surface, it looks like an exercise studio. And it's using exercise prescription as medicine. Now, this could be medicine for someone who's unwell, someone who has cancer, someone who has mobility issues, who has joint replacement, anything like that. But it can also be for someone who needs a comfortable environment to start maintaining their long-term health. So it's by appointment only, and it's unfortunate because Canada is the only Commonwealth country without this recognized as a form of treatment. And so my big objective is to get this. First of all, expand the clinics. Second of all, go to universities and start getting this in universities taught. And third, going to the government and getting this recognized by our healthcare system, because we're going to run into such an economic issue when we have 30% plus of the population over 60, and they're not healthy enough to take care of themselves. And we got to start working in prevention as much as we work in treatment. So I'll see someone with cardiovascular disease and I'll see someone with diabetes. I'll see someone with autism. I'll see a teenager who their parents want them to learn to lift weights, anything like that. So that's really the objective, is to match health span to lifespan.
Yeah, and the way that you described that, it makes so much sense. But you don't have a lot of people that actually kind of explain it the way you do. And even I love it's preventative. And what you say in the beginning, you said it's exercise prescribed for XYZ. That's so true, and it's so powerful, but somehow that's just not the way that most of the world views exercise. You know what I mean?
No, and it's not the way most of the world views wellness. So I had a client this afternoon who had a Baker cyst, which is annoying, but it's not the end of the world. And he has never exercised in his life before, and his doctor's advice to him was total rest for 3 weeks. And I wonder what that doctor learned at school for them to say that that's the proper, because one, that's not even the proper prescription to treat a Baker cyst. Two, how many other things can you do that don't even involve that area? So it's something that certainly needs to change, but you have to speak to people in a way that they'll hear it. So I need to get very comfortable, very familiar with the economic side of it, when one day I end up in front of the person who makes the decision of if they're going to spend money on it.
Yeah. What is obviously, you said in Canada, there's all these hurdles you're going to get through. Like in America, exercise is so misunderstood to the point where it's like you said, exercise can be so preventative with so many things. But is it the same in Canada as the U.S., where it's just like the furthest thing from what most people see is furthest thing from what you just said? Is it the same way up there?
I wouldn't say it's the furthest thing. I certainly don't think it comes to a lot of people's mind when they think about their health. I think they think about they might think about the factors that exercise could improve. But some people will be surprised when you say that exercise helps control diabetes. And if you have cardiovascular disease, exercise will prevent diabetes, for example. And if you have cardiovascular disease and you're on beta blockers, you'll actually never improve your aerobic capacity. So that's your new maximum. And how much more do you want that maximum to go down when you can't get up 2 flights of stairs?
True.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, brother, we need more people like you, kind of fixing the balance that's so screwed up, because what you're saying is so true. And if we had a lot more of this, we'd have a lot healthier population,
Yeah. But, I look at someone like Arnold, and he isn't a particularly, he is now. I suppose when he was bodybuilding, I don't think he was thinking about much other than bodybuilding and looking as good as possible. But I think most of us, if not all of us on this call, he would have had an influence in us getting into the gym. Actually, maybe Nick, you're the same age as him. I don't know.
I'm a little bit. I'm quite a bit younger, but okay.
His role
but I am
in promoting his role in promoting wellness was greater than anyone else that I can think of.
Yeah. I'll absolutely.
Yeah,
100%.
He uses platform well, for sure. Speaking of Arnold, talk to us about, you said you had a little go in bodybuilding. Talk to us about that.
So after I stopped American football, I went from 240 to 300 pounds, and it was not a good 300 pounds. I look at the scale. I distinctly remember thinking, I will never let myself be 300 pounds again. And here we are.
And you're a little heavier than that.
Yeah, that's right. Shame. And I started losing weight. I started, I was fairly consistently training even when I got heavier. And I kept going down and down and down. And I got some really good advice that stuck with me from my high school weightlifting coach. And he was a bodybuilder. And he said to me, like, are you going to do a show? And I said, I'll probably do one next year because I'm not sure. Like, I just don't think I'm ready yet. And it's off a really big cut and whatever. And he says to me, you have no idea what's going to happen in the next 12 months. Even if you come last, at least you've done something. And that's something that's really profound to me and has really stuck with me since. And, you just gotta take every opportunity that comes to you. And I call it a yes policy. Until I have kids and I have people that I need to put before me every day, other than my fiance, I will say yes to anything. And it's got me into some very funny situations, unique situations, meeting people you never thought you'd meet. And it's really, ever since that day, it's one of the best things I've ever done.
So it sounds like it was quite some real good personal growth and understanding of just kind of your progression. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So how has that gotten you into trouble, and what's the craziest thing that's led you into?
Well, it's not crazy in the sense that, most people would think of it and you ended up in jail and whatnot, because there's obviously still a moral compass with it. But the best story is probably I had a client in Sydney who was a sailor, and I had never sailed before, and he asked me if I'd like to go sailing with him. And I said, sure. But he's not talking. That's right, 100%. I literally, that was in my mind. I have to. And he's not talking sailing leisure. He's talking sailing proper racing, right? And
wow.
So you're on the speed cranks for the sails.
Yeah, 100%. And wow. We're doing this in the Sydney Harbor. First time we go out, we couldn't get the Hetzel up, like the big front one. So that was kind of a flop. The second time we go out, we end up coming second in our category, I believe, which was awesome, really successful. Third time we go out, we're heading out towards the mark, and there's a boat ahead of us coming back from the mark. And there's all these rules on the water of who has right of way that I have no idea. I still have no idea. And somehow there's this really odd crosswind where we're heeled over to the right, and they're also heeled over to the right, coming the opposite direction. And our masts end up colliding.
Oh!
All of the rigging gets caught in each other. Their mast snaps in half. There's about 300 kilos of mast hanging above the boats. Two of our guys go overboard.
Whoa.
One of our guys, because their boat had twisted, its nose is on top of ours. One of our guys straddles the boat and tries to push it off. The boat goes into his leg. Blood-curdling scream. Okay, you're a moron. And I'm hanging onto the top rail, just watching the whole scene unfold. Like, how did I get myself in this situation?
Right. So you're thinking your yes policy got a little sticky here.
No, these are the best things, right? And
man, am I glad I asked.
These boats.
That was a great story.
These boats cannot get untangled from each other, and we start just literally just drifting around the Sydney Harbor wherever the wind blows us. And I don't know if you guys have been sailing before, but you can imagine when the wind hits the mast, it keels the boat over really hard. Yeah. And you can imagine when two boats are tangled together, twisting, and the wind goes from tilting them one way to tilting them the other way. It was insane for about 2 hours trying not to hit things. Then we end up hitting a parked boat. And then this happened at about 6:30 p.m. and about 3 p.m. we got tugged, 3 a.m. we get tugged by this tugboat, and my captain had to call the harbor master, who he was personal friends with, to get this approved, and we had to get tugged as a rig, like at the two together, past the Sydney Harbor, under the bridge, and over to safety. And I have this fantastic picture that someone took of the two boats tangled together with the whole Sydney Harbor in the background. And I can't wait. I'm going to blow that up and have some type of quote and put that up in my office. But something like that is like lifelong memory that I had
Oh my
no
God,
business
yeah.
being there.
Wow. That's a story. That's a story right there. Holy smokes. That's crazy. So you also mentioned high level football.
Yeah.
Talk to us
I
about
played.
that.
Well, I played a little bit of football as a kid, probably grades 7, 8, and my dad coached it, and it was okay. And then I played it up through high school, and I was just naturally quite good at it in high school. Then I sort of had the choice between going and playing Division I golf in America or playing American football in Canada. And I chose the sexier option, which was playing American football. And yeah, I went through training camp. I was a defensive end, and the culture was terrible. It's not the culture at the school I went to. It's football culture, where if you're a rookie, we're going to beat you up. If you're this, we're doing this, and it's the initiation. And maybe it's because I grew up with a single mom and a sister and a house full of women, but I have no reverence for the alpha male bravado and I'm tougher than you and smashing your head day in and day out and practicing twice a day and doing all of these. I would consider them to be sort of moronic things. To be able to be one of the boys when I didn't even care to be one of the boys that much. I just wanted to have a bit of fun. And and I was also 17 at the time when I went to university. So psychologically, I don't think I was ready for the stress of the crowds and the environment. And it helped me grow a lot, but it certainly, if I were to go back and do it again, I probably would have gone back to high school for another year. But I think if I reflect on most of my life, I'd said, I wish I would have done that slower, but then I probably wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So you actually were playing university level football at 17.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Not that well. It was not an illustrious career by any means.
But you
I
were
got
good enough to
field,
be
I
there.
made the team. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of 17-year-olds would, that's myself is a perfect example. Shit, I didn't even have hair in my nuts yet, So, the thought of playing college anything would have been a dream, But
you're saying you grow hair on your nuts?
I shave it now. I wish I didn't grow. All those years I couldn't wait to grow hair on my nuts. Now I shave it. Isn't that? It's just one of those things in life,
It's just a visual we don't need.
Yeah, Sean. now I'm going to go to the gym and I'm be thinking about your hairy nuts, man.
Well, don't worry, they're not hairy. I shave them. They're not hairy now.
She's out of the shower.
Well, that was the worst. That was the worst part. When you're a fucking junior in high school and you're the only fucking guy that doesn't have a single fucking hair in his dick. That's the problem. That's the issue.
I don't even know how we got on this topic.
I don't know. That's a good question. Anyway, so basically, you made it to university level football, but it just kind of wasn't for you based upon the culture, as you're saying, correct?
I think broadly speaking, psychologically, it wasn't something that I was ready for, and the culture contributed to that. The pressure contributed to that. You're a kid living at a home for the first time, and you're trying to navigate so many things, and I wasn't prepared for what I got myself into.
I actually think you would have probably made a better golfer.
Yeah, the golfing part is crazy too. I mean, can you pick up a golf club and go play fairly well now?
Yeah. I still play on a well, I can't say semi-regular. It's the thing that makes me happiest to go do still to this day. And
really?
I posted a video last week. I was at the range with my fiance, and I entered one of my best friends in the city here. He's a professional long driver, so I entered a comp with him about 2 weeks before World's Strongest Man. So I still love to swing the club. I'm probably about a 10 handicap at the moment, which is pretty good for a casual golfer. But yeah, I'd love to get up to the course as soon as I find time to do it on a regular basis. I have a golf membership, my clubs are always in my car in case I find time to go do it. And yeah, there's nothing more relaxing than heading out there and smacking it around.
When did you start golfing?
Young, really young. I picked up a club for the first time when I was 4 or 5.
Wow.
Then competing and playing very regularly, I was probably 12 or 13.
Wow. So when you had a shot to go do that school/golf with Tiger Woods coach, you were like one of those elites that at that age, you were kind of one of the elites that was getting a possible opportunity that most kids would die to try to get to, correct?
Yeah, 100%. And, I went down there, I enjoyed myself. I played really well. But I don't know, for whatever reason, and only in retrospect did I know that was why I was down there. I thought I was down there just to, hit the ball and have some fun and whatever. And my mom did a phenomenal job of painting it that way, because I think as a kid, that's sort of how, and then she sort of sussed out how I felt about it afterwards. And I think the right decision was made there, to be honest, because I really enjoyed my time. But was I ready to live away from my mom? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big step, I mean, you mentioned basically being raised by your mom and having your sister around. I was kind of the same way. My mom raised me, so I got a really strong connection to my mom as well. And so I remember even at 18, having that separation was kind of tough, let alone you're talking about being 14, Yeah.
And it's something that you have to learn it. And if I think forward to when my kids are of the age when they'll move out, and I think that's something that parents probably don't educate their kids on enough. And I think too much is made of the logistics and who's going to do your laundry, and you need to learn how to cook your food. And I think not enough is made of this is going to be a really difficult emotional time, because I didn't know how to cook that well. I didn't know how to do laundry that well, and that never bothered me. But feeling lonely and not having that same support system were the things that really sort of got to me. Yeah.
So you picked up your first golf club at 4 or 5 years old. By 14, 10 years later, you're basically at that age one of the elites. What was the process? Did you just play? Did you have a coach? How did that whole thing unfold?
Yeah, I had a coach, and I think the driving factor for my mom was that golf season lined up with football season. So if she kept me golfing, I wouldn't play football. So I think that was the incentive, and I think that was really quite intelligent, actually. So I had a coach for probably 3 or 4 years that I went to consistently, and formed a really close connection with him. Like I said, got to a really good stage, and after 14, I just sort of petered off being as serious about it. I think as football started to pick up a bit and priorities shifted from, playing as much sport as possible to seeing if you can get a girlfriend and whatnot, and going from there.
Yeah, the interests start to change a little bit. Yeah.
And golfers at the amateur level do not get great girlfriends.
No, but they do pretty well at the pro level.
They do unbelievably well.
Yeah. Very true.
They do very well.
So talk to us a little bit about the diet that you've kind of used over the course of you're clearly you're as strong as it gets. What's been your staple of what's your methodology of dieting?
Well, I have a calorie target and a number of times to eat per day target. So I try 6,000 calories, eat 5 times a day, which means that I need 1,200 calories a meal. In terms of protein, 300 grams is sort of my minimum. And if I'm eating 5 times a day, that means 60 grams of protein per meal. Essentially, that's what I base everything I do off of. And other than that, it doesn't matter to me too much. I have concern for my health, and I don't want to be a strongman who's 30, 40 kilos of fat. And, I even if it meant pulling 505 to weigh 180 kilos for 6 months, I'm not ready for the potential repercussions of that. So I'm really lucky to have a meal prep sponsor who gives me food, like just little pre-made food. I have a meat sponsor who I'm really lucky to have, who will give me premium steaks, salmon, chicken, all that type of stuff. And then, just filling in the gaps. Going out for food is one of the things that I enjoy doing the most. So I'll go out for food probably 3 times a week with my fiance, with friends or whatever. And then, just fill in the gaps and sort of 80-20 rule in terms of keeping things as healthy as possible.
So when you go out to a dinner, what's your favorite thing to order? What's your favorite meal when you're ordering at a restaurant?
To be honest, food when you go out is heavy in macros, but very light in micros. So I don't treat going out as a meal most of the time. I'll order a meal, but I'll usually eat before I go so that I don't have to worry about what I'm having there. And it's really sensible stuff. I love chicken club. I love like chicken burger. I just can't get my head around eating fried food for the most part. It's not an interesting answer. I apologize for that. Just chicken Caesar.
Brother,
awesome.
Brother, you've given us so many interesting answers. You could be throwing bricks for the rest of the show, and we're in good shape here.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm also not prepared to. I'll see some guys who go out and order 2 meals and whatnot. I don't care how much money I make and how much I'm worth. Spending $150 because your ass needs to order 2 steaks because you want to feel like a big man just doesn't sync up with me.
I've seen plenty of that.
There's also the element of I don't like to stand out in ways when I don't bring it upon myself. I don't want to stand out. So if someone comments on my size or something, it's sort of like, oh, okay, I get it and whatever. But the comments from the waitresses and the people you're with, if you're ordering the biggest steak on the menu, oh, I bet you eat that. I bet that's half a meal for you. It's just, I just think it's so stupid. I can't handle it.
I'll tell you, brother, for one of the strongest dudes on the planet, man, you really kind of sit back and you kind of hide away from and I don't mean that a bad thing. You kind of separate yourself is a better way to put it, from all the stuff all the stereotypical stuff that goes along with being a big, strong dude. You really keep yourself separated from that. And it's very unique, very interesting, and quite very inspiring. I mean, we don't get a lot of people in your shoes that have this type of position on, life in general, but even some of this stuff like we're talking about, in many cases when the waitress says, oh, blah, blah, blah about the steak, most people are pushing deeper into that, So,
well, reflecting on the World's Strongest Man experience, I'm not near as proud of my 8th place. I wouldn't even be near as proud of a first place, in all honesty, as I would be to be considered for the character award, and as I would be when my mom was in tears because so many people came up to her and said how well I treated them. So that it's who you are. It's not what you do, and forever that will be the case. And it helps me in competition, and it'll help me tremendously when I decide that I'm done with Strongman, and I will not have an identity crisis because I'm just being who I am the whole time.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. I tell you, brother, you've been putting some really, really cool perspectives into this show, and I think our listeners are going to love it. We've had you on here for almost an hour now. You're a busy dude, but got a couple more questions for you. So, and I'm really interested to hear. Oh, you fire away, Nick. Go ahead.
Okay. So, are you going to go to Glasgow? Is Glasgow for the Giants show for the Deadlift Championships?
Deadlift is Cardiff.
Is where?
In Cardiff.
Okay. Are you going to that? And if you are you going for the 505? And what are you going to change? What do you think the difference is going to be between pulling 475 and 505? Because you pulled 475 pretty easy.
Very easy.
Yeah, you'll enjoy that story as well. I'll tell you that in a second. I'm going. Yes.
Okay.
I believe that I have the best chance to pull 505. I believe the chance is greater than 50%, and I think if I needed to pull 510, the chance is still greater than 50%. And I'm happy to explain the logic on that.
I want to hear it, please.
So if you just strip everything back and you take training age in terms of strength sports, I've been in strength sports for 2.5 years, and when I pulled 475, I was in strength sports for maybe a year and a half, right?
Nuts,
so
man. Nuts.
let's consider the strength side of things, and even if you're just reasonably training for that period of time, for a relative novice, you would expect a 10% increase would not be ridiculous for someone of that training age. And I don't expect to have increased my strength 47.5 kilos, but we're starting to talk into territory where, okay, that seems reasonable in and of itself. Now, with the deadlift, the deadlift comp that I did when I pulled 475, 2 weeks before that was Static Monsters when I set the world record there. And a week before that, literally 6 days before, someone messaged me and told me that the reason I wouldn't get invited to World's Strongest Man, I would never get invited to World's Strongest Man, is because I couldn't squat enough. And I took that as a personal challenge to go squat heavy. So I had no experience in reps, and I said, at Worlds they squatted 317 for reps, so I'm going to squat 350 for reps and send the video to this person. And so I squat 350, and I come up once. And if you've used reps before, you know that you need to get used to them. You can't just kick into them and assume you know what you're doing. So I go down into the hole. I go to kick out, and my knees extend too early, so my ass kicks up. And I complete the rep, but I lose my balance backwards a bit. So I take a step back with my right leg. My left hamstring tears. Okay, minor tear, but it tears. The rest of the week I was limping around, and I had Static Monsters 6 days after. I tweaked it on the log clean at 140 in warm-ups, 300 pounds for American people. And then I proceeded to pull the 485, which is a world record at the time, 18-inch deadlift. And my hamstring still went 100%. And I knew that I had this deadlift 2 weeks later. Now, the intention with the deadlift, the max deadlift when I did 475, was it was a charity event, and the person wanted me to come break my Australian record, which I had set 3 months earlier at 435. So my goal was to lift 440, and my utopia would be to lift 1,000 pounds, which I tried the 3 months earlier, and it was a failure. Yeah, it wasn't really that close, to be honest. And the biggest challenge with that 2 week period and with the lead up to the deadlift championship there is the night before we had a scheduled work party. And this was on a boat in the Sydney Harbor, just having a great time. And it was our Christmas party. So it's sort of the biggest one of the year. And so I told my fiance, I said, look, I've got the comp tomorrow. I've pulled 435 in training. I know I have 440. I just can't go in as a disaster. So what I'm going to do is the boat party starts at 1. I'm going to drink from 1 to 6. And then, I'm cutting it off. I'll start recovering, and we'll get to bed at a reasonable time. Fast forward to 11:30, and there's a video of me dancing around with a tray of tequila shots. and then comp kicked off at 9 a.m. the next morning. So I got up that morning. I didn't feel horrible. I didn't feel 100%. Didn't feel horrible. I was riding a motorbike at the time, so I put my duffel bag on my lap. My missus was behind me. We ride the motorbike 45 minutes out to the competition. I get there, and warming up, they have no deadlift bars. So I warm up on a stiff bar, and, it was what it was. It didn't really bother me. Stiff bar and bumper plates. And my attempt selection was 400, 440, 455. So I could have 2 shots to break the record if I'd missed 440, and I had a chance to go 1,000 if I had a good day. So we make it through. I lift 400, lift 440, lift 455. And after 455, I looked at the promoter, and that was the last lift of the comp. And I told him, I think I'm good for more. And Makarov had pulled 475. So I figured I'll give a crack at 475 as well. Why not? And he says, how much time do you need? And I look up at the clock, and I believe it was 53 minutes past the hour. I said, I'll go on the hour. So I had a 7-minute rest. In terms of neurologic recovery, you're talking you need 20 minutes to get back to baseline after a heavy lift like that. So a few minutes later, I going to the bar, I had a idea in my head, and I always give myself a percent chance. And I thought, there's maybe a 30% chance that this happens. And then I pulled it up, and if you watch the video, the reason I hitched it so hard is because my back popped halfway up, and I didn't want to let it go. So it would have been a little bit smoother if not for that. Then I had briefs on that were 4 sizes too large. So the briefs were literally just a formality sitting there. So I have some better briefs coming. But you take all of those factors and you think, I was in a room of 20 people. I was a bit hungover. I had briefs that didn't fit. You give me another 12 months of strength training experience, and you put me in a room of 10,000 people screaming. All of that tends a reasonable person to believe that I'm at least capable of it, whether I do it or not.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that.
Yep.
I'd have to agree with that. Wow, brother. Well, it's going to be exciting for sure. Very exciting.
It's absolutely amazing to know you haven't been training like training like this for 2.5 years.
Strength training. That's like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, and to be clear, training for strength sports. Before that, my last thing was running marathons. I still trained. I still lifted weights. I'm not built in a lab. There's still a big training history to get here. Yeah.
So what's your VO2 max then?
My VO2 max?
Yeah.
At the moment, it wouldn't be very good.
Well, when you were doing marathons, what was your VO2 max like?
It was never anything crazy. I had it tested at university. That was after I was done early in my strength career, so it would have been closer. I was never someone up in the high 50s, but I got myself to, I would imagine, I got myself in the low 50s in my best shape. So my last marathon, my best time was 3:24, but I was in much better shape than that in my last marathon. And I was just a total moron about it because the first half I ran in, I believe it was an hour 23, which put me on pace for a 2-hour 46 marathon, and I needed to run 3:05. And at the 32-kilometer mark, my hamstrings and quads were cramping, and I blew myself out. So I think I was capable of running 3 hours and 5 minutes. But yeah, probably low 50s.
Wow. That's amazing.
There's been a lot of wows on this show.
I don't think people are really going to truly understand what a freak of nature and like just an unbelievably genetically gifted person you are, and the fact that you have the work ethic and everything else to go with it, which is why you're here, and the intelligence also, because you have to be pretty smart to get to where you've gotten, especially as quickly as you've gotten there. And I just find it utterly amazing, which is why I keep shaking my head and laughing. And I got nothing but respect for you.
100%. I mean, as soon as you started talking in the beginning, I was like, okay, we got something different going on here. It was very recognizable, very quickly, So very cool. Well, I hate to say this, brother, but we're probably going to have you on here many times because you are a hell of a lot of fun to talk to. And with the fact that you're just getting started in your strength career, I mean, every year that goes by, you're going to flip something. You're going to flip something else on its head. We're going to have you back on so you can tell us about it. So. But here's a question for you. And so if you're 26 years old, so you're not that old, but let's just say that you had the ability to get into a time machine and travel back in your own life, in your lifetime, and you as you are right now could go give yourself one piece of advice. How far back in your life would you go, and what would you tell yourself?
I tend towards the semi-common answer of I appreciate the lessons that I've learned the hard way. But if I could go back, when I was 15, 16, I wasn't really a nice person. I got along with a lot of people, but for a long time in my life, I thought that I could accomplish what I wanted to on my own. And I thought if I was smart enough, I could present ideas good enough that people would listen to me, whether they liked me or not. And I thought if I ran a business, the best way to progress that business would be to crush everyone around me and succeed that way. And if I could nip myself in the butt at 14, 15 and give myself the advice that you actually can't do anything with your life without the love, support, and respect of a lot of other people, I would have benefited greatly from that. Because, you know, in high school, I was valedictorian, which in Canada is basically you have a certain grade average, and then it's a student vote. And I won that, but I also never went to a party because I didn't really want to be friends with anyone. In university, I would very rarely go to a party, very rarely go to the bar because I was more interested in training for whatever I wanted to or studying, and I didn't really see the value in building relationships with people. And only towards the end of my undergraduate degree did I realize how important that was. And that was a large element of why I went to Australia, because I knew that I needed to learn the lesson of building connections. And I thought the best way to do that would be to go get off a plane, know nobody, and see how many friends you can make. And one of the most meaningful experiences of my life was I hosted a going away party for myself and just invited some friends over to, you know, say goodbye and whatever. I was able to invite 6 people to that party, and 1 person showed up. And that really gave me a reality check of, you know, who you were. And I spent 4 years in Australia. You know, that's what I accomplished in 22 years in Canada. Obviously, that's not everyone who cared about me, but that's certainly everyone who showed up. Then I spent 4 years in Australia, and my fiance and I, we had an engagement party when we left. And in the throes of COVID, we had about 30 people cancel, and the party had about 70 people there, none of which were family, and all of which I would consider very close friends. And that's a personal growth that I wish I learned much earlier, but something I'm forever grateful for learning at all.
Nice. Again, wow. All of your answers bring that wow factor. I got to tell you, it's fun to hear you talk. You bring some really, really cool shit to the table. So last question before we cut you loose, brother. You've been here. We really appreciate your time. You're only 26 years old, and I can only imagine what you're going to do in the next 10 or 20 years. I mean, look what you've done in this lifespan of only 26 years. So what was that?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So anyway, you're going to accomplish so much more. And when you do what you do, it's going to be, I'm sure, quite amazing, just like what you're doing now. When it's all over, what do you want to be remembered for?
Yeah, I can't boil it down to one thing, really. I first and foremost want to be remembered as someone who's just generally a nice person who treated people well. I want to be remembered for someone who made a meaningful impact on people. And when I think meaningful impact, I don't think about you inspired me to hit a new PR. I think about you inspired me to reach out to a family member I hadn't spoken to. You inspired me to go for a walk when I was in my bed and didn't want to get out. I just want to be remembered for making some type of change.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, brother, really cool, man. I got to tell you, it was like I said, a lot of fun having you on the show, and I know we're going to have you come back again because you are one interesting creature, to say the least.
I've been told that my whole life in a variety of undertones. So that being said, before we wrap it up, Nick Ock, do you have anything for the Moose before we cut him loose? I almost feel like I can't call you your nickname. It's just so not fitting now that I know you much better. You know, Mitchell is so much better. I feel so much better saying Mitchell than the Moose now that I've talked to you. So forgive me if I don't use your nickname moving forward. No, that's the nickname. The nickname was just given to me, and I'd much rather be Mitchell than the Moose, and I don't mind it.
But Mitchell in my book, brother, that's for sure.
If you look at the animal, the moose, he kind of fits that character, though. It's like a mythical beast. You fit that.
The mythical part, yeah, that says for sure. Yeah, the beast, yes. I guess there's a little tie there, but I'm going to go with Mitchell.
It associates. When you become a nickname, you become the athlete, and I'm not the athlete.
Yeah.
That's not
after talking here, I so agree with you, brother. Athlete is one little sliver of your existence, you know.
And any of our existences. It's just some people find that out a little bit too late.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to come on. And this is going to reach a lot of people, and thank you so much for doing this.
Yes.
Yeah, well, thank you. I mean, like I said before we started, the best thing that I can get from this entire Strongman experience is exposure, is leverage to be able to pass on the messages that I want to put out there. So I have all the time in the world to come on and do something like this and speak to the people who listen to you.
Right on. Ak?
Right on. Well, thank you very much.
No, just I want to say thank you for coming on, and it's been a pleasure, hearing your story, and I just wish you continued success in the future in everything that you do.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, our show is about, motivating people to be the best versions of themselves. And I got to say, brother, you have taken a different spin on, the motivation that people are going to get from this episode is going to be very unique, in a very positive way. So I got to say, me personally, I am so happy I got a chance to talk to you, because this was, you really said a lot of meaningful things. And I think you're going to get a lot of people thinking in a way that they need to think. So I appreciate your time, appreciate your words, your wisdom. And that being said, like I said, we're all about motivating people. And I think you brought a different level of motivation. And thank you so much. There you have it, as another edition of Legends of Iron, everyone. If Mitchell did not get you thinking a little differently, I don't know who the hell will. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We will see you next time.
Legends of Iron is brought to you by Musclemint. Musclemint is the creator of Carnival pure beef protein icing. Beef builds muscle, and Carnivore is the world's #1 selling beef protein.
And don't forget to try our new carnivore flavor, Rocket Pop.
Oh, damn. Whoa, this is it right here.
Wow, this is protein? Delicious.
This is too good to be protein. Woo, we about to change the game with this one.
You're gonna love it.